The first time I said those words to her, I meant them as comfort. I did not know they would become the question that changed the rest of my life. It happened in the back hallway of the Harbor House Inn, 2 hours before her younger sister's rehearsal dinner. Rain was tapping against the old windows, music was drifting out of the ballroom, and Allison Grant was standing beside a stack of folded linens, trying very hard not to cry. Her ex-fiancé had just walked past with his new girlfriend on his arm. Vincent Hale looked polished in the way expensive men often do, all sharp edges hidden under a perfect suit. He leaned close enough for me to hear and said, "Still alone, huh? Some habits never change." I stepped between them before my temper had permission. "Allie," I said, my voice low, "look at me." She looked up with eyes that were glossy but stubborn. That was Allison in one expression. Hurt, but refusing to hand it to anybody. I told her, "Any man would be lucky to marry you." For a second, the hallway went so quiet, I heard the ice settle in a silver bucket behind me. Allie's lips parted. She stared at me like I had opened a door I had no right to close again. Then she took one step closer. Her voice came out as a whisper. "Why not you?" Before I tell you what I answered, ask yourself this. If the person you had been quietly loving for years looked at you and asked that question, would you be brave enough to tell the truth? If stories like this remind you that love sometimes waits in plain sight, like the video, stay with me and tell me in the comments whether you would risk a friendship for a chance at forever. I wish I could tell you I said yes right away. I wish I recognized destiny when it stood in front of me wearing a dark green dress. Instead, I gave a nervous laugh. "Allie," I said, "you can't mean that." Her face changed so quickly I wanted to take the words back before they finished leaving my mouth. "I didn't ask if I could mean it," she said. "I asked why not you." Then her sister called from the ballroom, and the moment broke. Allison wiped under one eye with the edge of her thumb, lifted her chin, and walked back into the light as if she had not just handed me the most dangerous question of my adult life. I stayed in the hallway, listening to applause rise from the rehearsal dinner, feeling like a coward in a rented Navy suit. My name is Daniel Mercer. At 37, I owned a small custom furniture shop in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. Most days I smelled like sawdust and coffee. I could build a dining table that would last 100 years, but I had spent most of my life avoiding the one thing that required more courage than craft. Allison and I had been friends for 6 years. She moved into the apartment above my workshop after leaving Boston with 3 suitcases, 1 old record player, and a job teaching music at the elementary school down the road. The first week she came downstairs because the pipes were knocking so loudly, she thought the building was haunted. I found her in the stairwell, with her hair in a messy knot and a frying pan in her hand. "If it's a ghost," she said, "I'm negotiating rent." That was how we met. From there, friendship grew in ordinary ways that later felt less ordinary. I fixed her cabinet door. She brought me soup when I caught the flu. I built her a shelf wide enough for her records. She sat on the back steps after school, telling me which child had discovered rhythm and which one had discovered the word no. I pretended those evenings were casual. They were not, but I had rules. Allie was my tenant, my friend, and a woman who had once escaped Vincent Hale, a real estate developer who treated kindness like a flaw he could renovate out of her. I promised myself I would never become another man who made her feel trapped. The rehearsal dinner was for her sister, Megan, who was marrying a Coast Guard pilot named Owen. Their mother had rented the Harbor House Inn for the whole weekend, an old New England place with white shingles, blue shutters, and a harbor view that made people speak softly even when they were being nosy. Allie had asked me to come as her friend. "A buffer," she said on the drive up. My family loves me, but they ask questions in packs. I said yes because I had never been good at saying no to her. Also because Vincent was Owen's cousin, which meant the man who had once made Allie apologize for laughing too loudly would be raising a glass at her sister's wedding. At dinner, Allie took care of everyone. She adjusted Megan's veil, calmed her father over his toast cards, found a gluten-free dessert for Owen's aunt, and smiled through every question about whether she was seeing anyone. I watched people take pieces of her attention like it was free. Then Vincent arrived with Tessa, his new fiancé, and introduced her with the slight pause of a man waiting for pain. Allie shook Tessa's hand and wished them well. That should have been the end of it, but Vincent did not know how to leave kindness unpunished. After dinner, he cornered her near the hallway. "You could have had this," he said. "A wedding, a family, a real life. But you kept waiting for perfect, or maybe for someone who never bothered choosing you." I saw her flinch. That was when I stepped in. That was when I said the line. That was when she whispered, "Why not you?" For the rest of the dinner, I felt that question everywhere. In the clink of silverware, in the scrape of chairs, in the way Allie avoided looking directly at me while somehow knowing exactly where I stood. When the evening finally ended, I found her on the side porch, wrapped in a cream shawl, staring at the dark harbor. "You disappeared," I said. "I preserved the public image of the Grant family," she said. "Very noble of me." I leaned on the railing beside her. "About what happened inside, don't soften it." "I wasn't trying to." "Yes, you were. You always do that before you say something careful." The wind moved a strand of hair across her cheek. I wanted to tuck it behind her ear and had no right. "I don't want you to feel embarrassed," I said. "Embarrassed?" She turned. "You think I asked because Vincent hurt me?" Her laugh was quiet and sad. "He embarrassed himself. He doesn't get to decide my worth anymore." "I know that." "Do you? Because when you said any man would be lucky, I believed you. Then I realized you were excluding yourself from the sentence." I had no answer that would not reveal too much. She hugged the shawl tighter. "I'm not asking you to marry me tonight. But I am asking you to stop acting like caring about me is some kind of accident." A door opened behind us. Megan's voice called, "Allie, Mom wants photos." Allie stepped away. Before she went inside, she looked back at me. "Tomorrow they're seating me next to Vincent at the family brunch unless I bring someone who makes that impossible. You want me to sit with you? I want you to come as my date." The word landed between us with more weight than it should have. "For the weekend," she said. "Not fake engaged, not a performance, just enough truth that people stop treating me like an open wound." "Enough truth," I repeated. She held my gaze. "Can you do that?" I should have said yes, immediately. Sit beside her, hold a chair, let people assume what they wanted. Protect her from a man who had taken enough. But I knew how quickly a line could blur after years of standing beside it. "I can do that," I said. Allie nodded once, like she had expected the hesitation, and hated that she had expected it. "Good night, Daniel." The next morning, the dining room smelled like coffee, blueberry muffins, and family tension. Sunlight spilled across white tablecloths, and the harbor looked calm enough to be accused of lying. Allie came in wearing a pale blue dress with her hair pinned loosely at the back. I forgot my own name for half a second. Then she reached for my hand. It was not dramatic. She simply touched the back of my hand with hers and asked, "Ready?" I turned my palm up. Her fingers settled into mine. Something in my chest moved into a room I had locked years ago. At brunch, Mrs. Grant spotted our joined hands before we reached the table. Her eyebrows lifted. Allie's father, George, looked from her to me and smiled cautiously. Vincent saw us, too. His smile thinned. "Allison," he said. "Daniel. Didn't realize this was official." Allie sat beside me. "There are a lot of things you don't realize." When her mother asked if we were dating, Allie glanced at me. There was the choice again. Lie, dodge, or step forward. I said, "We're figuring out what we should have figured out a while ago." Allie's hand paused around her coffee cup. She did not look at me, but I saw color rise in her cheeks. Mrs. Grant pressed one hand to her chest. "Oh." George cleared his throat. "Well, good." Vincent smiled like a man watching a weak board in the floor. "That's sweet. Surprising, but sweet." I looked at him. "Why surprising?" "Daniel's a careful guy," he said. "Doesn't seem like the type to leap." Allie set down her cup. "Maybe he knows the difference between being careful and being cruel." Nobody spoke for a moment. After brunch, Megan tried to fix a place card disaster, but Allie moved in automatically with tape and markers. Megan grabbed her wrist. "No, you are not fixing everything today." "I'm helping." "You're hiding in usefulness." Megan softened. "Go walk with Daniel. 10 minutes. The world will survive." So we walked between rain-heavy hydrangeas to a wooden overlook facing the water. "Your sister sees too much," I said. "She learned from me." At the railing, Allie's shoulder brushed mine. "What you said at breakfast," she began. "I didn't plan it." "I know. That's why it mattered." I looked at her profile, at the way she kept calm, while the truth moved under it. "Allie, I don't want to use this weekend to pretend it's something that could hurt you." "Do you think I'm fragile?" "No." "Then don't make my choices for me." That landed exactly where it was supposed to. She took a breath. When I left Vincent, everyone acted like the brave part was walking away. It wasn't. The brave part was living afterward without letting his voice follow me into every room. "I know. Then believe me when I say I didn't ask because I was lonely. I asked because somewhere along the way, you became the person I compare safety to." I stared at her. She looked down, almost smiling. "That came out more honest than planned." My heart beat so hard I felt foolish. "There's something I haven't told you," I said. Her smile faded. "Okay." I almost told her that I loved her. Instead, fear chose a smaller truth. "I might have to leave Portsmouth after the summer," I said. "There's a restoration contract in Denver, a historic theater. Big enough to save the shop, maybe expand it. I haven't accepted yet, but I need to decide soon." The water moved below us. "When did you find out?" she asked. 3 weeks ago." "And you didn't tell me." "I didn't want to make the weekend harder." She nodded, but something closed behind her eyes. "Right. Careful." "Allie." "No, I understand." She looked back at the inn. "We should go. Megan needs us." She walked ahead of me, and for the first time that morning, she did not reach for my hand. The day became a lesson in consequences. Allie still smiled in photos and stood beside me when relatives came near. But the ease between us had gone thin. By afternoon, a storm rolled in from the harbor, and the wedding planner discovered the wooden ceremony arch had cracked. She looked ready to commit a crime with a clipboard. "I can fix it," I said. Allie looked at me sharply. "Daniel, you don't have your tools." "I have enough in the truck." In the covered carriage house, rain drummed on the roof while I worked with clamps, glue, screws, and the focus that had saved me from feelings more than once. 10 minutes later, Allie appeared carrying 2 coffees. "I come in peace," she said. I accept caffeine as a treaty. She watched while I reinforced the joint. I'm sorry I got cold earlier, she said. You had a right. I had a reaction. That's not always the same thing. She folded her arms. I just thought you were going to say something else. My hands paused. What did you think I was going to say? Allie stepped closer. I thought you were going to tell me why it couldn't be you. I looked at the arch, because it was safer than looking at her. And then you did, she said. Just with a map to Colorado instead of a sentence. The Denver contract is not about running away from you. Isn't it? I wanted to be offended. I could not. The question was too fair. I'm scared, I admitted. Her face softened, but she did not rescue me from the admission. My father lost his shop because he kept choosing other people's needs over the business, I said. By the time he asked for help, it was gone. Denver feels like the responsible choice. And loving someone feels irresponsible? There it was. Not an accusation. Worse, an understanding. I set down the screwdriver. Loving you feels like the one thing I could lose that would actually ruin me. Allie's eyes changed. The wedding planner burst through the side door with a box of candles. Allie stepped back. I turned to the arch too quickly, knocking one clamp loose. The moment scattered, but not completely. Some truths wait. By 5, the rain had stopped, and the arch was fixed. Megan hugged me hard enough to bruise. When she ran off, Allie touched the repaired joint with 2 fingers. You always fix what other people think is broken, she said. Wood is simpler than people. Not always. She looked at me. Sometimes people are only cracked because someone leaned on them wrong. I thought of Vincent, of his polished cruelty, of the way Allie had learned to apologize for taking up space. She looked toward the lawn where Vincent was laughing with relatives. He proposed in front of 200 people at a charity auction. Everyone clapped before I could breathe. Later, when I told him I wished he had asked privately, he said normal women were grateful. After that, every decision became public before it belonged to me. The venue, the guest list, the house, even the job he wanted me to leave. Her voice stayed steady. That made it hurt more. I didn't leave because I stopped loving him all at once, she continued. I left because one morning I looked at a wedding dress hanging on my closet door and realized I had disappeared from my own life. I felt my jaw tighten. So when he says I'm alone, she said, what he means is I got away. You did. And when I asked why not you, I wasn't asking for a rescue. I was asking whether the one man who has always treated my choice as mine could ever choose me back. Before I could speak, Vincent approached with Tessa beside him. Beautiful repair, he said, tapping the arch. Daniel's always been useful. Allie's expression cooled. Careful, Vincent, he smiled. That was a compliment. No, I said. It was a habit. His eyes moved to mine. Excuse me? You dress insults like compliments and expect people to thank you for the tailoring. Tessa looked down. Allie looked at me as if she had never seen that particular part of me before. Vincent glanced at Allie's hand resting on my sleeve. Well, enjoy the act. It isn't an act, Allie said. The words hit me first. Then they hit him. Vincent laughed under his breath and walked away, but something had changed. Allie's hand remained on my sleeve a second longer before she let go. That evening, the inn held a welcome party on the porch, with string lights glowing against the dark. Allie and I stood near the railing, not quite together, not quite apart. Dance with me, she said. You know I'm terrible. I know you say that because you can't control the outcome. She took my hand and pulled me into the open space between tables. The song was slow enough to forgive me. I placed one hand lightly at her back. She rested her hand on my shoulder. There was nothing scandalous in it, and yet I felt every inch of the life I had refused to imagine. Allie looked up. "You're counting steps." "I'm trying not to injure anyone." "What are you really doing?" "Trying not to want too much." Her hand tightened at my shoulder. "Daniel, I don't need a promise with a bow on it tonight. I need honesty. If you don't want me that way, say so. I can survive that. But if you do, don't hide behind being noble." I closed my eyes for one beat. When I opened them, Vincent was watching from across the porch. I hated that I noticed. I hated more that Allie noticed me noticing. Her hand slipped from my shoulder. "There he is again." "Who?" "The man in your head telling you the room matters more than what's real." "Allie, wait." She stepped back before the song ended. "I can handle Vincent. I can handle my family. What I can't handle is being almost chosen by you." Then she went inside. The next morning was the wedding day. Florists moved like a quiet army, and the repaired arch stood at the end of the aisle. I found Allie in the library, kneeling beside her father's chair, fixing the little microphone clipped to his jacket. George's hands shook around his toast cards. "I'm going to ruin it," he said. "You're going to make everyone cry and pretend you didn't," Allie said. When she stood and saw me, the warmth in her face dimmed by 1 degree. "I wanted to check on you," I said. "I'm fine." The most dangerous 2 words in any language. George looked between us and wisely left. "I didn't sleep much," I said. "That makes 2 of us. I was wrong last night." She laughed once without humor. "That is a beautifully broad sentence." "I was wrong to make you feel almost chosen." Her hands stopped. I took 1 step closer. "I have wanted to choose you for a long time." She looked at me then. Really looked. "But?" she asked. There should not have been a but. That was the tragedy of it. But I may still have to take Denver. Not because I'm running from you, because my shop has 4 employees depending on me. Because my lease renewal is coming, rent is going up, and the bank smiles at me like bad news in a tie. I don't know how to promise a future when I don't know where I'll be living in 2 months. Allie's expression changed from hurt to something deeper. Understanding, maybe. Pain with context. "Why didn't you tell me that part?" she asked. "Pride." That, I believe. Before I could answer, Megan rushed in wearing half her makeup and a robe that said, "Bride." "We have a problem." Allie turned immediately. "What happened?" "Mom invited Vincent to give a toast at the reception because he's Owen's cousin, and now he says he prepared something about second chances and family." Allie's face went pale. I said, "He doesn't get a microphone." Megan looked at me. That was my feeling, but with more panic. Allie shook her head. "It's your wedding, huh? I don't want to fight." Megan grabbed both her shoulders. "And I don't want my sister ambushed by a man whose hobby is emotional vandalism." For the first time all weekend, Allie looked like she might cry from being defended. "I'll talk to Owen," Megan said. "Daniel, stay with her." Then she was gone. Allie pressed her fingers to her temples. "Why does he still have the power to make me feel like I need a strategy?" "Because he studied you," I said. That's not weakness. That's what happens when someone uses love as research. Her eyes lifted to mine. "I'm going to ask you something," I said. "Do you want me beside you if he tries anything, or do you want me to step back so you can handle it alone?" "Beside me, but not in front of me." I nodded. Then that's where I'll be. She reached for my hand. This time it was not for show. The ceremony began at 4. Megan walked down the aisle on George's arm, radiant and nervous. Owen cried before she even reached him. Everyone laughed gently, and even Allie smiled through tears. When the vows came, I thought about promises. They were easy to say with flowers, music, and witnesses around them. The real test came later, when rent was due and fear was loud. After the ceremony, while guests moved toward the reception tent, Vincent approached Allie near the arch. I was 10 feet away, close enough to hear if I listened, far enough not to stand in front of her. "You look beautiful," he said. "Thank you." "I mean it." I said thank you. He glanced at me. "Does he know you used to want a wedding just like this?" Allie's shoulders settled. "I used to want many things that weren't good for me." His smile flickered. "I was good to you?" "No," she said. "You were impressive near me." Vincent's jaw tightened. "You think a carpenter with a failing shop is going to give you more?" There it was. The hidden knife. Allie looked at me, then back at him. "How do you know about his shop?" Vincent's eyes sharpened with satisfaction. "People talk." I knew exactly who had talked. Me, indirectly, to Owen the night before when he asked about my work. A harmless conversation. Not harmless in Vincent's hands. Allie turned to me. "Is it failing?" The word felt brutal out loud. "It's struggling," I said. "Were you going to tell me that?" "Yes." "When?" I had no good answer. The wedding tent behind us filled with music and laughter. Vincent lifted his hands. "I'll leave you two to the honesty." He walked away. Allie stood very still. "I was going to tell you," I said. She nodded slowly. "After the weekend? After Denver? After I guessed?" "No. What hurts is not that you're struggling," she said. "What hurts is that you asked me to trust what was growing between us, while giving me only the parts of the truth you thought I could handle." I stepped closer. "You're right. I can't do another life where decisions are made around me." "I know." "No," she said. "You know it as a fact. You don't know it as a boundary until I hold it." She removed the small pearl bracelet she had been wearing and pressed it into my palm. I recognized it. Her grandmother's. She had asked me to fasten it that morning in the lobby. "Give it back when you can tell me the whole truth without deciding my reaction for me," she said. Then she walked into the reception alone. I stood under the arch I had repaired, holding a bracelet that felt heavier than wood. For the next hour, I learned the difference between presence and courage. I remained at the reception. I smiled when spoken to. I did not chase Allie across the room because she had asked for a boundary, and I respected it. But respecting a boundary did not mean hiding behind it. I stepped outside the tent and called my shop foreman, Luis. "Boss, everything okay?" "I need the truth," I said. "If I don't take Denver, how bad are we?" Luis was quiet. He had worked with me long enough not to decorate facts. "Bad," he said. "Not dead, but bad." What would keep us alive? A smaller lease, more local commissions, less pride about asking for deposits up front, and you finally saying yes to the community college teaching gig they offered you. I stared at the harbor. That wouldn't be enough. No, but it might be enough with the Grant School restoration. I frowned. What Grant School restoration? The old music building. Allison mentioned at the spring fair they were looking for someone to restore the auditorium seats and stage. You said you didn't want charity. I closed my eyes. There it was. Pride again, dressed as dignity. She wasn't offering charity, Louise said. She was offering work. After we hung up, I called the Denver project manager. I thanked him, told him I could not accept the relocation, and offered to consult remotely on the first design phase for a smaller fee. When I ended the call, my future did not become easy. It became mine. I went back inside. The reception tent glowed gold. Allie sat near the edge with Megan, who was still in her wedding dress, leaning close as if guarding her. The pearl bracelet was in my pocket. My heart felt sanded down to raw grain. Owen stood at the microphone. Before dinner continues, my cousin Vincent asked to say a few words, but my wife and I decided we've heard enough from him for one lifetime. The room went silent. Then nervous laughter moved through it. Owen smiled politely toward Vincent. Instead, Megan wants her sister to speak. Allie's eyes widened. Megan squeezed her hand. Allie stood slowly. She looked terrified for 3 seconds. Then she walked to the microphone. "When my sister was little," she began, "she used to make me play wedding with her in the backyard. She always made me be the officiant, never the bride, because she said I had a serious face and could be trusted with important words." Laughter moved through the tent. Allie looked at Megan. "I thought important words were the ones everybody heard. Vows, toasts, announcements, proposals in crowded rooms." Her gaze flicked, just once, toward Vincent. "But I've learned that the words that change us most are often quiet. A sister saying, 'I'm here.' A father practicing a toast because he wants to get love right. A good man asking whether you want him beside you or in front of you." Her eyes found mine then. Allie's voice softened. "Megan, Owen, I hope your marriage is full of those quiet words, the kind that make both of you bigger, not smaller, the kind that leave room for choice." Allie raised her glass. "To love that makes room." Everyone lifted glasses. Applause rose. Megan cried. Owen cried. George cried openly and pretended to adjust his glasses. Allie returned the microphone. Before she could sit, Vincent stood at his table. "That was touching," he said loudly enough for half the room to hear. "Especially coming from someone pretending her own love life is suddenly perfect." The tent went still. Megan turned white with fury. Owen took one step, but Allie lifted a hand. Not toward Vincent, toward the people who loved her. She did not need rescuing, but she had asked me to stand beside her. I walked across the tent and stopped at her side, exactly where she had asked me to be. Vincent laughed. "Here comes the carpenter." I looked at him. "Yes." Then I turned away from him and faced Allie. "I need to tell you the whole truth," I said. "Not because he forced it, because you asked for it, and you deserve it." Allie's eyes shone. She did not nod. She made me choose without helping me. "My shop is in trouble," I said. Worse than I wanted to admit. Denver offered me a way out, and I considered taking it because I was scared that staying would make me look like a man who failed. "I didn't tell you because I convinced myself I was protecting you from uncertainty. The truth is, I was protecting myself from being known while I was scared." Her lips trembled. "I called Denver tonight. I turned down the relocation, not to make you responsible for my life, not to trade a job for your forgiveness. I turned it down because the life I want is not waiting in a city I chose out of fear." Vincent scoffed. "Romantic. Financially stupid, but romantic." I did not look at him. "I also called Louise," I continued. "I'm going to restructure the shop. Smaller lease, more local work, teaching, deposits up front. All the unglamorous things pride kept me from doing. And if the school auditorium project is still open, I'll bid for it properly, not as a favor from you." Allie's tears finally fell. I reached into my pocket and held out the pearl bracelet. "You told me to give this back when I could tell you the whole truth. So here it is. The truth is, I have loved you for years, quietly, badly, carefully, and not bravely enough. I loved you when you threatened a ghost with a frying pan. I loved you when you brought soup to my door and pretended it was too much for you to eat alone. I loved you every time you made my shop feel like a place someone might come home to. And last night, when I told you any man would be lucky to marry you, I was telling the truth with one lie hidden inside it. Because I didn't mean any man. I stepped closer. I meant me. I would be lucky. I would be honored. Not because you need saving. Not because we have everything figured out. But because choosing you would be the most honest thing I have ever done. Allie covered her mouth with one hand, the same way she had in the hallway. But this time she was not trying to hide pain. I opened the bracelet clasp. I'm not asking you to marry me tonight, I said. That would be another public decision, and you deserve better than that. I'm asking if you'll let me start choosing you in the open. One day at a time. With the whole truth. The room seemed to hold its breath. Allie looked at the bracelet, then at me. Beside me, she whispered. Beside you, I said. Never in front of you unless you ask. Never around you. Never instead of you. She extended her wrist. My hands shook as I fastened the bracelet. The clasp caught once, then settled. Allie looked down at it, then back at me. Daniel, she said, and her smile broke through the tears. Why did that take you 6 years? The room laughed softly, and the tension finally loosened. Pride, I said. Fear. Terrible timing. And? I knew what she wanted. And because I was an idiot. Megan shouted, That part! Even George laughed. Allie stepped closer. I'm still angry. I know. I'm still scared. Me too. And I'm not moving to Denver. I know. She searched my face. But if you're really staying because your life is here, and not because you think I'm your reward for suffering, you are not a reward, I said. You are a person. My favorite person. That was when she took my hand in front of everyone. Not for protection, not for performance. For choice. Vincent left before dessert. The rest of the reception did not become perfect. Real life rarely rewards courage with clean transitions. We did not kiss under fireworks or make promises better than we had earned. We danced once, slowly, while Megan beamed at us from Owen's arms. This time I did not count steps. Allie rested her head against my shoulder for 3 measures of the song. Then she lifted it and said, You're still bad at this. At dancing? At pretending you're not happy. I smiled. I might need lessons. I know a music teacher. Is she expensive? Very. She charges honesty. I looked down at her. I can afford that. The Monday after the wedding, Allie came downstairs to the workshop with 2 coffees and an envelope from the school district. I was sanding a maple tabletop, trying not to look like I had been waiting for her. She placed the coffee near my hand. I talked to the principal, she said. The auditorium restoration is going out for bids next month. No shortcuts, no favors. If you want it, submit like everyone else. I will. And if you don't get it, that doesn't mean you failed. I nodded. Still learning that. She watched me for a moment, then pulled something from her bag. It was a small brass key on a blue ribbon. What's this? I asked. My apartment key. I froze. She rolled her eyes. Not for the dramatic reason your face just invented. My lock sticks again. I laughed so hard I had to set the sandpaper down. But also, she said, because I'm tired of walking downstairs every time the pipes knock. If a ghost comes back, you're closer. I took the key from her. Our fingers touched. Allie, I said. She stepped into the sawdust light, where the morning came through the high windows in bright beams. Yes? Why not me? Her smile softened. Because it finally is, she said. 6 months later, the shop was still not rich, but it was alive. Louis reminded me often that honesty was cheaper than panic. I taught evening classes twice a week, moved to a smaller building with better light and less pride, and won the auditorium bid fairly. Allie sat in the back row during my first site visit with a clipboard, pretending not to smile. We took things slowly, not because we doubted what was between us, but because we respected it. Some nights she graded worksheets while I sketched chair designs at her kitchen table. Sometimes we argued, but we learned to ask better questions before the argument became a wall. Are you telling me the whole truth? Do you want me beside you, or do you need space? Is this fear talking, or is it wisdom? Those became our quiet words. On the first warm evening of spring, I carried a finished porch swing up to the roof. Allie had once said every home needed one place where people could sit without performing. I built it from reclaimed oak, strong enough to hold 2 people and all the things they were still learning how to say. She found me tightening the last bolt as the sun went down over Portsmouth. You built a swing on a roof, she said. I secured a swing on a roof. Very different legally. She ran her hand along the smooth oak. It's beautiful. It's not a proposal. I didn't ask. I know. I just wanted to say it before your eyebrows did. Her laugh moved through me like music from another room finally coming home. We sat together, the harbor in the distance, the workshop below us. Allie leaned against my shoulder. I still think about that hallway, she said. So do I. You looked terrified. I was. And then you laughed. I regret that part daily. She turned her face toward me. I don't. Why? Because if you had been smooth, I might not have believed the rest. I needed to see you scared and still show up. I thought about how love had not arrived as lightning for us. It had arrived as soup, repaired shelves, hard questions, boundaries, phone calls, bids, and the courage to stop mistaking silence for care. I looked at the woman beside me, the one who had asked me the simplest and most frightening question of my life. Any man would have been lucky, but luck was not what saved me. Choice did. I'm here, I said. Allie squeezed my hand. I know. And for the first time in years, I understood that a home was not a place where nothing could go wrong. It was a place where the truth did not have to knock twice. If this story made you think of someone who has stood beside you quietly, do not wait forever to say what matters. Tell me in the comments, should Daniel have answered Allie honestly from the very first night? Or did he need to earn the courage first? And if you believe love should make room for choice, stay with this channel for more stories like this.